So I'm going to change this up today because my channel or my videos are kind of boring. So I hate talking to a camera. Uh, so I actually brought my brother in. Say hello, Ronnie.
Hello.
So he'll be a voice in the background, just somebody I can bounce ideas off. So what we want to do today, again, what my purpose is in life is to uh, let us help each other is my motto. I want to be able to introduce you to some new ideas and maybe help you understand the gospel or life a little bit better so that you can make decisions based on knowledge uh, and not based on some false narratives. And we know how false narratives and myths get put into to the teachings of life. But I mean, I always pick on this one during Christmas time. I'm always listening to songs and stuff like that. Every once in a while, there'll be one with the three wise men showing up to the manger, and that's a myth. That's a lie. They don't show up until he's like 2 years old, and there was not just three. There was probably more because it's not specific in the Bible. But people, they have some ideas in their head, and then there's some false ideas that get passed around. So I'm trying to break some of those myths. And today I'm going to introduce you to a few other channels I have here. To all my channels, you know that we have the this channel here is the My Faith Crisis channel. I'm hoping to help each other on our journey. It's not directed towards those who are having a faith crisis. It's for everybody. But if you're having a faith crisis, I think these videos will help you in a big way. And then this is where I get mean because people are attacking the church. And so this won't be my, it's called AJ's Ex-Mormon Files. I'll get that one running pretty soon. It's just takes a little bit to get my thoughts together and to get things where I can have the time to make these videos. It takes time and to edit. But I also got my old, a new channel. It's an old channel, but I changed it because I am very much, when I look at politics and I use, and in our society, I usually look at them in a theological way. I always use the mindset of how does God and His scriptures fit within our the political and societal changes in life. So one of these channels might help you in your journey, or it might give you some entertainment. That's what we're here to do. If I'm not entertaining you, then there's no way to help anybody. Nobody, I'm hoping people like this video and share it with their friends, and hoping that they'll subscribe to the channel and hit that bell. So because we're going to be on a journey together, and one of these forums that you might enjoy. I enjoy talking. I talk all the time to people, so why not put it on video and help other people out? So let me bounce something here. We're going to go. So the last video I did was that was theological, was Genesis started the Come Follow Me Part 1. Now I'm a little bit behind, but I listened to other people's commentary, and I scratch my nose once in a while, it itches. But I'm a little bit behind, but I'm listening to other people's commentary, and I'm listening to them, and I'm like, I want to choke people because they're, again, they go along with the false narratives that have been taught to us so long about the the universe and its origin and the Adam and Eve story and things like that. So I have something to say. I have an opinion. Everybody has an opinion. So I want, maybe there's some people out there that are getting lost because because Genesis is not being taught right. So let's get started. Let me get to the screen here and we'll talk about it. So we go with, let's just read the heading. God creates this earth and its heaven and all form of life in 6 days. In 6 days. The creative acts of each day are described. God creates man, both male and female, in his own image. Man is given dominion over all the things and is commanded to multiply and fill the earth. Well, again, the heading is kind of misleading. It says 6 days, and everybody's fixed on that 6 days. So in my last video, I explained to you that how we can see Andromeda, which is 2.5 million light years from Earth, but we can see it with our naked eye. So there's no way that we could think that 7,000 years ago that the universe was created. Ronnie, there was a star that you mentioned that is older than even the Big Bang. Is that right?
Yes, there is. It was determined that it was 14.5 billion years old.
Nice. So again, the Big Bang's a bunch of garbage too. They don't have it's. So again, I've always for a long time now. I understand that God and the universe are one and the same, and when we talk about God and the broad dynamic of what God is, it's what God is different than who God is. Okay, there's that's two different ideas. It's not one and the same. So sometimes when we look at the Bible, we don't when we see the word God, we just attribute it to the supreme being, and it's always the creator of the universe. But again, with the fact that we know Andromeda, we know that's 2.5 million light years away, so light has to travel, and it travels at a certain rate of speed, and that's just the bottom line. So we have to take the facts as they are and not try to build upon false ideas. And here in this first line says, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. So remember that again, this word heaven is singular. It's not, and again, we know that that had been changed by other more recent Bibles, calling it heavens to give it the no more dynamic idea that God created the universe. But no, there's definitely the word heaven here. If and I'm put some drop-ins right here. The actually goes along with the other word that is presented down here in verse 8, which God called the firmament heaven. And those two words are one and the same in a lot of ways. Heaven is the firmament. It's the atmosphere that is developed around us. So again, it's actually the correct Hebrew. When you study it out and you look at the Hebrew language, it actually I've seen this on a video, and I'm not going to drop the video in here, but the guy who was studying Hebrew said this was the word heaven was skywater, which is firmament, which is the atmosphere. And we'll go through this and I'll show you how that works. So again, it's God, which God is the word here is in Hebrew is Elohim, and it is plural. So when you talk to Christians and they say, well, Jesus Christ was there. And so that's how you have a plurality. Good. I'm glad they agree with me that Jesus Christ and the Holy Ghost and the Father were all there in the beginning to create the heaven and the earth. Still, if you look at math, again, when you're talking about, when you name people specifically and you give them a title, then they are separated by our thought process. There's no way that you can, at least for myself, I don't see how you can say that Jesus Christ and the Father and the Holy Ghost are one
And the same?
well, not one and the same, or they are the same essence. That there is no separation between the three. And there's a truth to that, but it's an incomplete truth. Because, again, the universe, or if you look at God and it's dynamic, at least you have Jesus Christ, who's a physical being now, or a resurrected being, and you have a Father and a Holy Ghost. They can be one within the dynamic of that God, but yet they're recognized as three separate individuals doing three separate parts of our what would you call it? Three parts of how they're getting things done for man. So in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and we know it's singular, and it's, for me, it's the firmament around the earth, which is the atmosphere, and God is Elohim, which is plural. So that's the first idea, and the first understanding of the Genesis chapter 1, and then verse 2 is kind of where the earth was void and full of darkness, and so God, when the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the earth, and then in verse 3 it says, and God said, let there be light. Now again, when you look at the Hebrew language, I didn't look this one up, but I'm sure that if you think about it, it's not till the fourth day that God creates the stars, the moon, and the sun. Where does the light come from? Well, it comes from Him. And so once we start getting into this, to the understanding that don't just read things, the line, and say, oh, that's just the end of the idea. When we continue on with the conversation in the Bible, you're going to see that light could very well, in this verse, could very well be what you call force or flow, things to make things move, because God saw that in verse 4 we got God saw that the light was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And we know that in His scope of thinking that everything's already made, it's already done. But what He's talking about is the rotation of the earth. Because once you get the rotation of the earth, look what happens here. In verse 6, it says, and God said, let there be firmament in the midst of the water, and let it divide the waters from the waters. So again, with centrifugal force and the rotation of the earth, this creates an atmosphere around the earth. That's why you can't just take the word light and make it literal. That what is happening is he's talking about the force which makes the earth move, and the rotation, and its rotation, so that it can use centrifugal force to make the atmosphere. So again, it's a very important idea to understand that not all the time is light. It can be because again, the Bible's translated from one language, and they're trying to make that one language fit another language, and they're trying to, and there's, in the Hebrew you could probably find 10 different words that would fit the Hebrew word in the English language. So it's kind of complex in that way. Well, anyway, so he divides the water, and and then look at the language here. So one of the things that I've noticed is he's specifically talking to the earth and its mass. And he's talking to it. And then he goes down. Here's another one. In verse 11, he says, "And God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit of the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so." So again, if we take this and just think about it, he's not doing anything that we are not doing today. He's doing it from genetic design, and he's creating plants. And today we know that we can alter plants quite in a big way by gene splicing and genetically altering these plants. So we're getting close to the fact that we can actually start building things from a very micro level. So
like the pluot.
What is it?
Like the pluot.
Okay, tell me what that is, Ronnie.
It's a combination. It's a combination of a plum and an apricot.
Yeah, exactly.
The pluot.
Very good. And there's several different kinds, and grafting helps that out. But there's also where we're genetically altering corn so that it can be more resistant to bugs. And that's why sometimes there's a certain kind of corn that can only be used for feed for animals, and then there's a certain kind of corn that is not genetically altered that can be used. They genetically alter it with putting it together with a gene from the peanut, and so so they're doing this stuff to make the variety more hardy, and so it doesn't get ate up by boll weevils and other bugs. But you can't feed that to humans because humans, some people are allergic to peanuts, so they have to actually divide these fields up so that they don't crossbreed in a way. So again, so God is doing stuff from a very foundational foundation of things, but we're getting closer. And so then again, and the 14th says, here's what I'm talking about. When it comes to how light is used, in verse 14 it says, "And God said, let there be light in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." It's pretty basic. Again, he does this on the fourth day. All right. He doesn't do it on the second day. He doesn't do it on the first day. He does it on the fourth day. So again, we have to put these things in perspective so we don't, again, create false ideas and false stories and myths. So now where are we at here? And then we go down. Here's where it gets quite interesting. Here's verse 20. I want you to listen to the language here and watch how it goes with verse 21. "And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that hath life, and fowl that may fly. Look at that. May fly. Crazy, huh? Because not all birds fly. Not all the birds fly. There's penguins, there's emus, ostriches, the dodo bird, which is extinct since the 40s, I believe. Is that right, Ronnie?
They were extinct in the 1850s.
1850s. He's smarter than I am on a lot of stuff. That's why I brought him in. He can really add to our videos here. And it gives me a lot more energy. I'm actually talking to somebody. So then you have, yeah, the mayfly. I just caught that a couple of years ago. It's crazy. And then now watch this. So, and God said, and God said, all right? And God created great whales and all these moving creatures, all right? So it gets a little bit more handy once we get down to verse 24. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creatures after his kind, cattle, creeping things, and beasts, and so on. Then in verse 25, it says, and God made the beast of the field, of the earth, after his kind, and so on and so forth. Now, here's where it really gets unique. All right? Here's where I caught it. Whenever I was reading the scriptures, I read this chapter over 100 times probably, just because I'm really into the creation and the uniqueness of God and the nature of God in that debate. But this, it took me a long time, but I caught on to this a couple of years ago. Let's read this. And God said, let us make man in our own image, after our own likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea. All right. Now, let's go to verse 27 and see what it says here. Remember, in verse 26, it says, and God said. What does that mean? All right. Think about that. And now in verse 27, it says, so God created man in his own image. So God. So this is command, and this is the actual part where he actually fulfills what he commands. And who does he command? Well, let's go to the scriptures real quick. Let's go to John chapter 1. Let's go to John chapter 1. What does it say here? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So, again, this is important. This is very important to us. This helps us understand. Let's help us understand this and all the other places where it looks like that God is commanding and then the work is being done. So we definitely have a conversation going on here. It's not just one individual talking to the earth, which in the beginning you can see that God was just talking to the earth and to the elements and making them move. And God made the firmament, okay? And God said, let there be a firmament, And so, again, you're looking at things dynamically, and God called the dry, or let's see, yeah, here we go, verse 11. Let the earth bring forth grass. And the earth brought forth grass. So that's different from whenever he says, and God said, let us make man. And then, and then in verse 26, it says, and God said. In verse 27, it says, so God created. And then you go back to John, and then it's relevant. It brings more meaning to the, more conversation or meaning to the actual words there. And they were told to be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion. So when you give somebody dominion over something, you've basically made them a god over that which they have uh, effect and authority over, their platform of responsibility. And then down here, it's not really anything new, but everything is done. And he's just telling the people, hey, you can eat it. If I grew it, you eat it. All right? That sounds like a good idea. So just remember that when you read the scriptures, don't just all the stuff that you've been taught. It's probably a lot of it wrong. Give yourself a chance to learn things a little bit more in depth. And no matter who's telling us these things, sometimes they're wrong. Bruce R. McConkie's wrong. Brigham Young was wrong. All the prophets and apostles have been wrong at one time or another. Even the apostles of old were saying their feelings was Jesus was returning soon after his resurrection for the second coming. And we know that was not true. All right? That was in their minds. People write as they're influenced by the Spirit, but man has influence also just because he has some ideas already fixed into him. So that's important. Let me show you something here in chapter 5, which is important to us. In chapter 5, I've got it highlighted here. It's very important. Right down here, male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam. It's a plural, right? Their name. So Adam meaning they were the first creation of man in the day when they were created. Okay, again, I know it's in the Book of Mormon. I can't remember where it's at, but seems to go along with Adam was created for a special purpose. If you look at, and we'll go through, might as well go back to chapter 2, but let me tie this in real quick. But here's the most important part. Now there's a lot of debate on what this image and likeness looks like. Well, God explains it to us right here in verse 3. And Adam lived 130 years and begat a son in his own likeness, after his image, and called his name Seth. Again, so if you have any ideas that outside of what is just common sense, I guess, likeness and image after the manner of which Adam is in the likeness and image of God. All right? It's pretty much a given what is being talked about there. So now we go to chapter 2. Now look at this. You have God resting on the seventh day. All right? He blesses it. And then, right down here, it says, but there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground. All right? And the Lord formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils breath of life, and man became a living soul. And then he put him in a garden eastward. So he can't put him in a garden unless the garden has already been built. Plain and simple. So he had already planted, he had already done all the work on the first 6 days to create the earth and put humanity on earth already. This is specifically to Adam, and because Adam has a special role. He is to bring forth, his role is to bring forth the salvation of man through his seed. It's pretty simple. I don't know how people missed it, but it's just the way it is. But he forms man, he puts him in the garden, and the garden had already been built because God had already planted, already made the herbs and the trees and all the different things. So some people would say, well, he's creating spiritually minded, spiritually in the first chapter, and all of a sudden he's bringing forth the actual work in the second chapter here. And there's two different writers, the first writer and there's a second writer. I disagree with that completely, both those ideas. It is what it is. God was telling Moses, and Moses was writing this stuff down. It's pretty, plain that way. But because of the, again, false narratives, you get locked into these ideas that are just absolutely unyoked with any truth. But you go along with it because everybody else is. Is that true, Ronnie?
Yeah, I mean, we need to think outside the box a bit.
I think outside the box. Do you agree?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so he commands them to, all that. And then he starts to make his animals for him. All right? And then he's telling him to name the animals, and then he's created a woman for him. Again, if you look at the second chapter, go back and read. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but the most important part of that is this is not the same creation as you had on the chapter 1. It's a totally different creation. He's talking about specific man and woman, Adam and Eve, who are the parents of all of the forthcoming people that will eventually bring Jesus Christ into the world. And I'm not the only one who says this. Actually, I found this out from the old man on TV. It's called The Shepherd's Chapel. I love that one. He was very honest about the scriptures, and I like the way he presented things. And so I'm not afraid to step outside the box. And his name was Arnold Murray. And so anyway, there's our today's lesson on chapter 1, a little bit of chapter 2, and a little bit in chapter 5. And I'll get the next video to you next week on chapter 3, so that you can be entertained by it, and we can go through this Come Follow Me together, and through some of the more important chapters that we have that are presented to us in this year's study. So hopefully this brings a little bit of light to you, and it helps you get through some hard thinking, that we don't have to be locked into some one idea, because I'm sure that whenever I get to heaven and I'm talking to God, and God is not petty. He doesn't, all he wants us to do is love him. And if we love him, then we're going to love our neighbor. And that's the most important part. And he says, if you love me, keep my commandments. All right? So there's a lot to that. But he's not petty on us, on how we recognize the universe, or if it was created or not created. He's not petty about if there's three separate people or how that looks, because it's really dynamic and just language. He's not petty about anything like that. He just wants us to love each other, and he wants us to join each other, join him once again. And then whatever we leave out in our understanding, he's going to fill in if we want it. That's just the truth of it. Is that right, Ronnie?
Yep.
Very good. So, again, if you've got this far, then I'm going to remind you to subscribe and to this channel, and let's get the word out to people who are struggling, and like this video and share this video, and leave a comment. I'm sure that there's probably a few ideas that I haven't thought of, but these are the comments after I've listened to a bunch of others. So you guys have a great day, and we'll see you again for the next lesson on the creation.